help you content, but some of it people have already made and you have to just search for it. Sometimes you can just do it yourself. If you want to put in the work, it makes learning that much easier as well. Or because it helps you retain it a little bit better because you're putting in the work.
Thank you.
All right. Any more questions before I head to my next class?
And just real quick, for the Kahoot email, do we use our ANU email?
No, for the Kahoot in the announcement, there's a link to it should be to a Kahoot that was already created. Um, you don't have to log in. You probably could create your own free account, or they would let you take it without logging in, but you don't have to pay for Kahoot.
I think when I did it, it was asking me to set, but
Let
I'll
me
go back and try it
let me
again.
see really quick. All right, if you guys give me 1 second,
That way too.
let me see. Announcements. If you don't have any questions for me, you are free to go, but I'll just pop on here real quick and see what. But when it was asking you to set up account, was it asking for payment or did it allow you to?
No, I didn't go further than the email because I just didn't know which ones to use.
Oh, you
So
don't have to use your ANU email for sure. It's a just an application that you can use. But you don't want to have to pay for it because I feel like it should let you peruse or even set up your own questions, but just a limited amount of questions without paying for it. So I'll check it out a little bit later tonight after I'm done with the next class, and I'll go back and make an announcement of what I was required to do. I have an account, so I didn't realize that it makes you set up an account now versus being just a guest. Um, but I'll check it out and let you know. And then also once your video downloads, I will post that in your announcements as well.
perfect. Thank you.
All right, I'll see you all next week.
Thank you.
All right, bye-bye. Sorry about that. Sorry about that. All right, welcome to day one of your first X-ray course, one of many. All right, today, what we're going to do is we're going to just give a quick introduction of all of us. We are going to talk a little bit about some of the functional capabilities that you need to have to be an X-ray tech. And then we'll talk a little bit about some of the housekeeping notes like policies and procedures in terms of ANU. And last but not least, we will end with your lecture. So I'm not sharing anything right now. All right, really quick, for me in terms of attendance, go ahead and type your name in the chat. All right, so a brief introduction. I am your instructor. I'm Dr. Dennis. I am also the chair for the program. So when I don't have enough instructors, of course, I have to pop into a classroom and teach a section as well. All right, this is a 2-year journey for you all, and it is in a format that is pretty much not very common. So probably one of the first programs to launch this type program outside of, I think it's named John Patrick University, but even with John Patrick, I believe the students have to go in and give some time in the lab. Our labs currently are going to be completely virtual. You'll be either doing it on a PC, but eventually we will send you or ship you an Oculus and you'll put those goggles on. It will launch you into a virtual lab and you'll have a patient there that you go in and position. Once you position that patient, you take the x-ray and you can actually see the image. So that's something that is missing from, I'll say, a school lab. Unless they have a phantom, they don't get to actually see their images. But what we are missing are things such as the tactile piece. So being able to actually touch the equipment, manipulate the equipment. Right now we're manipulating it virtually, and that's going to be totally different potentially once you get to the real world. Feeling and touching your patient or the different positioning points of the patient. That's something that we're not going to get in the virtual world. So there will be a little bit of a learning curve, in my opinion, once you transition from this virtual lab to the actual clinical site. All right, in all transparency, we're going to give these introductions, but in all transparency, the way that your program is currently set up, it was approved in a manner that I feel students will have a little bit of difficulty being successful because there's only one clinical rotation. So I am working diligently to change that to a minimum of 3. That's where we'll start. Um, and it will definitely affect some students. So we'll have to work together as not only the student and the instructor, but as the administration to work through what's going to be best for the student. With 10 weeks of clinic and all of the competencies that you need to graduate, I think it is a tall order for someone that has never been in imaging. And you're also going to be limited in terms of who's in charge of you at the site. If you've never been in an x-ray room, the first thing that you're going to have to learn is how to manipulate the equipment. That might take you a good week or 2 to even get comfortable with that. Next, you're going to have to learn how to actually talk to a patient. So if you're not already in the medical field doing that, or if you're not in customer service, which is no, you're not talking to them medically, but you're comfortable talking with people, those soft skills might be missing, and we don't have a lab where we can practice that every day. So you have a certain amount of competencies that you need to get within 10 weeks. There's 10 patient care comps off the bat, plus another 35 to 37 that you need. And the techs have to be confident in your skills before they're even going to let you come. All right. So, truthfully, before they even let you comp, unless you already have some skills, meaning you're a limited tech already, it's not setting you up for success just to be in the field for 10 weeks. And if you don't get the competencies, you cannot sit for your boards. I cannot even sign off on you if you don't get the competencies. So, in full transparency, we are working to change the program in that manner, and we're also working to change what is currently one procedures course, meaning you're going through every possible exam that could be ordered from upper extremities, lower extremities, spine, abdomen, skull, chest in 10 weeks. Is it possible for you to go through that book in 10 weeks and be competent if you don't have any prior knowledge? In my opinion, no. All right, because not only do you have to know where every part of a bone is, you have to be able to identify all of that anatomy. So those are things that we are working through, but it was approved by the accreditor in this format. So it was launched in this format, and now we have to try and get it revised. Um, all right, so a little bit about me. I have been a tech since 1998. I was trained by the military, and I did all of my book work in about 6 to 7 months. And then we did all of our on-the-job training, which was us going to work every day. Um, no, 5 days a week, 8 to 12 hour shift at a hospital for about 7 months. So very fast pace. We did have a lot of, if you didn't make it, you could fall back into one class, but if you didn't make it the next time, they would reclassify you into another job. So very stressful environment, but we did have a lot of time to learn because we were in school, learning book-wise about 8 hours a day, and then we were in clinic 8 hours a day as well for a little over a year. The traditional path for X-ray students, and I've taught in a for-profit colleges, and I've also taught in your traditional community colleges where you have to compete to get in, or competitive entry. It's usually about 2 years worth of book work and 2 years worth of clinicals. Students typically go to school somewhere between 2 to 3 days, and they go to clinic the other days, usually totaling about a minimum of 5 days a week that you're engaged. So they're typically full-time programs or full-time jobs being an X-ray student. So this one is definitely a lot different. Not only is it offering it to you at night, which there are very few night programs, it is offering it to you from the comforts of your own home. So that is a plus, but it also doesn't offer you all the additional hours with the face-to-face instructor where you can ask additional questions and get further clarity. Time with your peers where someone might be a little bit better in this subject area and they're tutoring each other. So with that being said, it's really going to depend on you to do the additional research that you need to get the information and understand the information that you need if you don't understand it while we're in this 2 hour session. Yes, you can reach out to your instructors and set up tutoring sessions, but in some cases, students aren't wanting to come back to spend those additional hours. There are tons of videos on YouTube that can, I say, Barney it down in a level that you can understand it, whether it's from a different instructor or whether it's from a student sometimes. And there are other things that you could purchase if you can afford it. One platform that I like is something called, it used to be called Red Tech Bootcamp, but now it's Clover Learning. They have some free videos on YouTube that you can check out, but it basically goes through like a small, somewhere between 3 to 15 minute lecture. Then it gives you questions to ask at the end. And these are like visual lectures for our visual learners. All right. And then it also has like a prep section for you to prep for your boards. All right. But you don't have to pay for something like that. But it is an option. You can also use, although you should not use it to do your homework and submit it to us, you can use AI to break down concepts for you. Hey, I don't understand what this is. Can you explain this to me? And it will help you study as well. There's also things like Study Fetch and Study Fetch and can't even think of Kahoot. Um, there's other platforms as well where you can go and study. I think with your book and also with Study Fetch, you might be able to make flashcards. There's another platform that is not coming to me right now where you can make flashcards, or you can just use things that other students or instructors have made and use those as well, versus just reading this boring book. and listening to your boring teacher, there are more interactive game platforms that make learning a little bit more fun. So, again, I was trained by the military in 1998. I spent about 11 years in the military and then I got out. Once I got out, I think I worked for the government, for the Department of Defense for a couple years doing regular X-ray. Then I went into what I'll say management or PAX. And then after that, we went to Europe for a little while. And when we came back, I got into education. I've been in education X-ray wise since about 2014, 2015. So I have a total of 6 kids, 4 adults, and 2 kids remaining, ages 12 and 17. So soon to be empty nester here soon. In about what, 4, 5, 5.5 years. Things that I like to do outside of sleeping. I like to travel the world outside of the US. And then, of course, my boys are into soccer. So we have a lot of soccer travel as well, not only in the US, but also abroad. So that's a little bit about me. So currently we have only 8 students here. So I'll go by, oh, and I live in Cumming, Georgia. So that's like in the metro Atlanta area. So we'll go by the list of students as you put your name in the chat. One thing about your online courses, your Zoom courses, you must have your camera on and you must interact with your instructor. So let's say your instructor is going around and they're asking questions. If they call your name and they don't see you and you're not responding, they are able to disconnect you from the session. That is a requirement for these Zoom sessions and your attendance. So if you could please engage your camera. All right, so we'll go down the chat. Just give us a little bit about, what got you interested. Same thing that you have probably placed in your discussion forum, what modality you're really interested in, and then hopefully, if there are some students that are in, close proximity, maybe you can meet up. When you're in X-ray school, it's like your family for 2 years. So a lot of students get together and study. It will be challenging in this format, but there are platforms such as Zoom that you can log into 45 minutes for free, if I'm not mistaken, where students could actually get together and engage with each other because this group will probably track together. We have another one, two, Allison, me, 4 or 5 one-on-one classes. So as you progress, some of those other students, you might see them trickle into your next set of classes. So, all right, going down the chat, let's start with Micaiah.
Uh, yes, so my name is Micaiah.
Micaiah.
Um, I live in Texas, Houston to be specific. I am a mom of two, a boy and a girl. My son is autistic and my daughter is not, so she's neurodivergent. I bake. I am a baker on my free time, and I also work at an allergy clinic as a biologics coordinator. So I just basically submit the patient's medication and do appeals, triage, essentially a case manager, but for all 4 locations that are in our allergy clinic. And I have been interested in radiology for a long time and finally decided to take the leap.
Okay. You bake to eat and share or bake to sell?
Both. I have been doing it since I was 15, so 10 years now.
Okay, awesome. Unfortunately, we're not together, so we can't share. Um, Eat her baked goods. All right, next is Gloria.
Hi, my name is Gloria Gillum. I'm from Mayo, Florida. It's like a really, really small town, so a bunch of cattle. In our spare time, we kind of just do that. We do like cattle, we run dogs for hunting, stuff like that. I have previous experience in the medical field. My mom is a DON of like 20 years, and so she was an RN and everything before that. Kind of growing up with her gave me my idea to go into radiology, and I myself have worked in the medical field a few times. I don't have my RN or nothing like that, so just like receptions, MAs, stuff like that. But I really think that I would like to go into sonograph.
Okay, awesome. Next is Zachary.
Hi, I'm Zach. I'm from Kentucky. So I have 2 kids. Soon to be married in like next year, in like 6 months.
Awesome.
I am in the nursing field actually. I'm a nurse aide. Well, a a care coordinator, but it's still a nursing aide. Uh, I decided to go into radiology because I want to learn more about X-rays and to learn to help more people instead of just
What
the elderly.
what part of Kentucky?
Paintsville,
Pikeville. Do you work for Pike
Paintsville,
PMC? Oh,
no
who?
Paintsville,
Oh,
Paintsville.
Paintsville, Paintsville.
Yeah.
Okay, okay, gotcha.
I work in a home health company.
Okay.
Yep.
So do you work from home?
No, I go out to a client's house and take care of
Okay.
them.
Oh, cool, cool. Okay. So like a almost like a traveler, but local traveler,
Yep.
travel. Okay. All right. Next we have Ashley.
Hi, I'm also from Eastern Kentucky. I did work at PMC as a PCT. And then I got pregnant and I have a 18-month-old. I now am a dental assistant. So I do take some x-rays a little bit. And then I got into it because I really want to go into mammogrammy. I want to, or mammograms, but I really want to advocate for breast cancer. I want to be educated about it. I want to understand it, and then I want to help other people for early detection.
PMC is actually responsible for this program even being a thing. They reached out to the school and asked them to build
I
a
actually seen
program.
it, on an email that they sent
Mhm.
me, and I was like, okay, I'll look into it, and here I am.
Yeah. So I feel like for their employees, they may even for the ones that are interested, they might even have some sort of financial assistance for them getting through this school. But PMC is responsible for this program even being a thing. Okay. Next is Kobe. Kobe. Where's Kobe?
Hi, I'm Colby.
Oh, Kobe.
I am located in North Carolina, north of Fayetteville a little bit. I worked as a physical therapist assistant for a little under 5 years. Um, I'm now in the auto body industry, got out of the medical field for a little bit, but ready to get back into it. Obviously, in physical therapy, we've looked at a lot of imaging, so that's kind of what got me interested in it. I've always been really intrigued by looking at MRIs and everything. Um, I'm really interested in going to nuclear medicine, but we'll see kind of where I end up.
Okay. Hey, it's not, once you do get your diagnostic registry, there's no time limit on it. You can do diagnostic for a little while, kind of job shadow just to see where it fits. And then sometimes in traditional programs, I'm not saying we're gonna have a whole bunch of time to do it. At the end of the 2 years, usually the students get some type of modality rotation, one or two, and they kind of get to see if they might be interested in whatever. Like Ashley said, she was interested in mammo. Some schools have mammo rotations that the female students can go through. Some schools have interventional CT, MRI. Not too many nuclear medicine rotations that I've ever seen, but you can always contact a hospital or clinic that has it and ask to do some sort of job shadow. So it's always an
Okay,
option. All
cool.
right, next we have Bria.
Hello, my name is Bria. I am originally from New Jersey, but currently living in Delaware. I'm also have a military background. I'm currently on my way out of the Air Force. I'm in my last few months. I've been in for about 7 years. Um, I chose radiography because I am an athlete. Like I've been an athlete my whole life, and I've been on the other end of the injury spectrum. So I broke a lot of bones and stuff. So that's how it really sparked my interest. When I joined the military, I did have a few jobs that fell under the radiography realm, but unfortunately, my recruiter didn't set me up for success. So I got a job that didn't really fall under that, but I've always wanted to kind of cross-train in the military, but it didn't really happen. So decided to get out and do it on the outside world. So that's kind of where I am now. I don't know if anybody's seen my post, but I love sports, so I would like to work in X-rays in a professional sports team of some sort. Um, so yeah, that's pretty much. I have a 3-year-old little boy as well, so I'm also a mom. On top of that, I currently also work in a hospital in the customer care side of it, part-time. So
What do
yeah,
you do for the Air Force again?
so I'm a cop, completely far left of what I originally wanted to do. So I'm security forces, which is pretty much like military police.
And there was no option to do like tuition assistance and, get into a day program, work at night?
So there was, but it didn't really fit my schedule correctly, like in the civilian world. So I
Mm.
wanted to do it in the military and cross-train to do like radiography in the military, but the cross-trained field was just process was just too much to do while I was in. It didn't really work out. So, but the schools around me for like daytime, just it didn't really, I just felt like online was the best to fit my schedule.
All right. Next we have Jana.
It's Jana, but I go by Chelsea. Um, I'm 27. Um, I have 2 kids, a son and a daughter. I'm from Prestonsburg, so there's a bunch of us that are close, Prestonsburg, Kentucky.
Kentucky.
Um, I actually work home health as well in Prestonsburg as a CNA. I've wanted to do radiology for about 10 years now. And I just finally decided to take the leap as well.
Okay. All right, welcome. So you guys could probably meet up on the weekend and do a little studying. And last but not least, we have Elizabeth.
Hello, my name is Elizabeth Gabriel Hannes. I have like 4 kids, 3 sons and 1 daughter, and some of them are in college, some in just school. And I am a phlebotomist and working in Kaiser Permanente like about 9 years.
Okay.
So yeah, and my goal is to be like MRI technician. So that's all. And when I have free time, I like to watch TV.
Wow. So Kaiser has some pretty good educational benefits. Is that what you're using?
Yeah.
Awesome. All right. So if anybody wants to go work for PMC, I think they offer some educational benefits as well. Kaiser is a good one. There's other hospital chains that offer benefits too, but I think you have to give them some of your time if you engage in the benefits. All right, so we'll go ahead and get started. So first, a little bit of housekeeping before we get into our lecture. So we'll look at I'm not sharing this. Get out of this. Stuck from my last class. All right, so hopefully you are seeing your course shell. All right, so some issues that students were having was finding the book. Some of our Zoom links, for whatever reason, they died on us. So this is what you should see. Let me go to student mode. All right, this is what you should see when you're in student mode, or in your mode. I do need to go in and kill this bottom link at the bottom. This one, hide this bottom link at the bottom. That doesn't work. So your Zoom link, since you were successful, you clicked on the right one. Now, this module right here at the top, the one that says start here, this is a progressive module. So to get to this bookshelf, you have to go in this first link, view it, mark done, hit next. Get to your bookshelf, download it, set up your account, mark next. Go to policies, which we'll look at them and talk about them really quick. Go to the bottom, click mark done, and then click next. Eventually, you'll get to this video, mark it done, download your lockdown browser, and then you can get to this practice quiz. You cannot get to the practice quiz unless you have completed these in order. So again, little bit of issues with students finding the book because you can't get to this book until you mark this first task done. All right, so once you do set up your account, you may be able to go in here as a guest, but I recommend you go ahead and set up your account so that you can have your book always. If you never set up an account, once you're done with this course, you don't get this book link for this book until you get to another class that maybe has this book. So you want to definitely make your account so that you have this book on your bookshelf for now and also for future studies. Some of the things that you can do, I don't like online books, but one of the things that you can do with online books is not only can you highlight different things, you can get it to read to you, right? If you don't like reading, you can get your book to read to you. Let me see if I can get to a page. All right. You want it to do that. Um, so if you're in the car, if you downloaded this to like a tablet or your phone, you can get it to read to you on your way to work or whatever the case may be, or while you're cooking. You can also make flashcards, bookmarks, etc. And you can also use other apps as well to do this for you too, like StudyFetch, to make learning just a little bit more fun. If you need a citation, you can get it to do your citation for you. We use APA. Only thing is when you copy these, see where it says insert this year, you gotta go in the book and find the year. All right, so you take all this insert year out, put the real year there. All right, and there is your citation for the book. Or of course you can use a citation machine or do it yourself. So there are a lot of perks to having an online book. I just personally don't like online books, but this is what your school gives you. All right, if you're a little bit visually challenged, you can mess with the modes in terms of how your book looks to you. All right, as you can see, the colors are changing. You can make the wording bigger, not that big, but bigger
Hey,
so
I'm
you can
sorry to
see.
cut you off, but none of us can see your book.
Oh, okay. Oh, you should have said that. a long time ago. Let's see. All right. I think you can see it now, maybe. You see it now?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So going back to where I started, at the top right corner, these little three dots, you click on that, you can get your book to read to you. If you want to print out a couple pages, you can do that. You can download the app, go into your account settings. But of course, you have to make an account to get this on your bookshelf. If not, you're just launching it each time as a guest. Like I said, you can make flashcards, bookmarks, you can highlight it if you want to. So those are some of your options. If you are visually challenged, like I said, you need some little bit bigger words. You can change the size of your text. You can change the background that the words are on if you want. You can change the font if you want it to. Of course, the line height, like the distance between the words. So there's some perks to having the book online. But of course, you always have to have some type of device unless you printed some pages. All right, the only colors that we have, maybe there's some more colors here. You have to download the other colors if you want to use the different highlighters. And of course, you can share it to yourself. Let's say you wanted to email it to yourself, you can do that. So that is your book or your bookshelf. All right. And again, as far as it reading to you, when you push read aloud, this bar at the top will come and you can play it, pause it, etc. All right, so that's just the perks of your online book. Unfortunately, we don't send out the hard copy, but it's not that expensive. And what I can say as far as this patient care book, although some of the chapters might have changed a little bit in terms of order or maybe the naming, for the most part, the book hasn't changed within, several versions. So you could buy a really cheap one and get the same concept. All right, so that is your book. Now I'm going to go back to this. All right, so now we're back to your course, and we were in home. All right, so next is the three of your important college policies. One is your attendance policy. So in addition to attending your live lectures are important because once we give you an in-class assignment, those accumulate and they count for 40% of your grade. If you do not attend the live lecture or you leave early or come late, you may not get full points or any points for your in-class assignment, whatever was assigned for that day. If you're not present, the only way to potentially get access to that in-class assignment is to get an exemption from your academic advisor. Anyone know who your academic advisor is? All right, everyone has the same one. She probably checks in on you weekly saying, hey, you haven't posted anything. Hey, your grades are this. If you entered in the mid, her name is Miss Bobby Stillman. That is your academic advisor. That is who you'll reach out to if you are having, if you are absent and you have a valid reason. She'll ask you for whatever it is. They do verify it. So if you say there's an internet outage, they go and verify that there was an internet outage in your area. Um, if you have went to the doctor, believe it or not, they call the doctor, and some doctors' offices do verify it for them because you probably signed some sort of release form that says that they can get that. So again, if it is valid, you were sick, your kid was sick, death in the family, they know that we're human and they do give those exemptions, but of course it can't be frequent and typically is not for a work schedule. Um, if you go 14 days without doing any schoolwork, they will dismiss you from the course or drop you from that course. So you have to submit something, whether it be a discussion or a quiz or a homework assignment. You have to submit something to remain current in your class. And you can find this policy again in the school catalog as well. All right. Next is your policy as far as late assignments. You get an additional week to turn in certain assignments, but at penalty. So if you did or were to make a 100 on that assignment, the max grade you could get is a 90. So it would be a 10% deduction of whatever your true grade was for that assignment. Discussions and in-class assignments do not fall under this late policy. If you were late submitting your discussion, you don't get credit for it. You have to submit it within that week by Saturday, 11:59 p.m. If you weren't present for your in-class assignment, again, unless you got the exemption, you will not get credit for that. And at the end of the day, if you miss too many live sessions or you fail to turn in the in-class assignment, that's worth 40% of your grade. So you can potentially fail for not attending these Zoom sessions or not turning in the work from the in-class assignment. All right, next is academic integrity policy. So with all of the AI out there, it's great if you can use it to assist you in studying, but not so great if you're using it to do your work for you and then just submitting it to us, nor are you learning in that way. So that's why you see some of the simple things like writing terms. The reason why you're writing them is because you have a book and students have went copied and pasted in 2 seconds and they have their terms. So we want you to write them. We do have things such needed to with turn it in, and that's basically Grammarly authorship report. What it does is it pulls up a screen for us and it shows every keystroke that you made. So if the only keystroke that you made was a copy and paste, it shows that you've copied and pasted to the document. It also shows how long it took you to write that paper, whatever it is. With Turnitin, it looks for other submissions, of course, that are similar, or things from books that are similar, and then gives us a plagiarism, I'll say, percentage. So what we are expecting is just for you to do the work. As none of it's hard work, but some of it will take a little bit more time than others for you to do. But at the end of the day, when you do the work, you're actually going to learn the material. All right. Now, in terms of when you do tenor your work, if there is an instructor that suspects that it is plagiarized or you didn't, it's not your authentic work, they will question you. In some cases, they will award a 0. You'll get a counseling, and then, of course, a request that you not do it again. And if it continues, they'll escalate it to the academic board, I can't think of the name of the board, academic standards board or something like that, where you sit before a panel, they look at what the instructor stated and you state your case, and then they make a decision on whether or not you're going to remain in the program. So again, the AI is out there. It is good to use to help you learn. If you don't understand a subject, you can ask it to explain it to you, but not so good if we're just telling it to do our work and turn it in, because at the end of the day, would you want to go and see a provider or a doctor that got through school just copying and pasting things and doesn't really know what he's doing? So that's kind of where we're at with this, but it is a great piece of technology. So again, once you mark this done, you hit next and we get to APA format. So again, nothing wrong with using things to assist you, but if you're using other people's wording, you do need to give credit where credit is due. And we require APA format for your references and in-text citations. Again, from the book, you can, I don't know if you saw where I said you can get the citation from. Did I go back over that?
No, I don't
No.
think so.
Oh, I'll go back. You can get the citation from the book. You just have to make one edit. Any other books that you use, you can use a citation generator, or you can actually just type it up yourself. Once you're done with this, looking over this, you mark done and you move on to the next, and that brings you to the lockdown browser. So this video tells you a little bit about, if you're not familiar with the lockdown browser, what the expectations are, how you do your environment check. At the end of the day, when your test is submitted, it submits the recording to your instructor along with a rating that's almost similar to, let's say, a traffic light with yellow, red, green, meaning low priority to review, medium priority to review. There's some sketchy stuff in there. And then a high priority review, meaning it flagged a lot of activity that it felt was not proper, and your instructors will go through and watch those. It'll flag every moment. Just like you see Miss Jana or myself or Miss Gloria, when you're taking your tests after you've done your environment check and of course your ID check, it does expect for you to kind of be looking at the screen and doing your work. When you're looking off to the left, it flags it. To the right, it flags it. Whatever is off outside of looking at your screen, it flags it because it feels like you're looking for information. Even if you're looking down, it's gonna flag it for your instructor, and they'll go back, they'll watch it. First attempt, they may say, please just correct that behavior. If it continues, they'll start awarding zeros. And then eventually it'll reach the point of, okay, let's just send this up for academic review type deal. All right. So again, the lockdown browser is just meant to kind of mimic what a testing environment would be in the classroom. It helps not prevent, but deter cheating. And it also kind of gets you ready for when it is time for you to sit for your boards, because when you go in and sit for your boards, you're in a room, it is locked down. You cannot get out of the test to look at other things or research other things. And just trying to keep everyone honest is what it's trying to do. All right, after you're done with that, you click done, hit next, and you should get to the practice quiz for the week. All right, in the practice quiz and also in your announcement, oh, I had to push mark done. After the practice quiz, once you get to the practice quiz, there's a link for you to download the lockdown browser. Once you download it, it will drop an icon on your desktop. All right, the icon, when you hit it to take your quiz, it's going to launch you in the same thing that you're seeing here, but it will allow you, when you click on the quiz, to launch the lockdown browser to lock you into the test. So it lists all your classes, you select the class that you need to take the test in, and of course, in your home page or module page, you just find the test. Once you take that test, you click next, and then everything is open. All these other modules were already open, but if you were having trouble finding your book, or that first practice quiz or getting to it, it's because it was a progressive module to get you to do every step or look at every step at least. Going back to All right, going back to the book. Where's the book? Did I close it? All right, let me launch the book again. All right, going back to your book, for the citations in your books, if you click on this three dots right here by this picture, it shows citation. Of course, we use APA here, but when you copy this, you have to ensure that you go in and take out this where it says insert year. That's where you're going to place the year. And of course, you're going to find the year of your book in the copyright, and you're going to put 2023 in that section for year. Some students just drop just this. And of course, what's the only thing that's wrong with this is the publication year needs to be put in there. All right, any questions so far? All right. All right, and all of your classes are going to be similar to this now and going forward, your X-ray classes. All right, next, let's hit a couple announcements. Then we'll put you on break. And then when we come back, we'll finish out with our lecture. All right, in terms of what was important for announcements for you all, there's a lot of announcements that posted in the first few days. Every Friday, potentially, the next week's announcement will come out to tell you what you need to do that week. And then there might be some additional announcements that your instructor might pop in there during the week to, hey, reminder, it's Wednesday, your first discussion post is done. So the important ones that we have not hit are going to be, we'll do the functional capabilities last. The etiquette one, that one is common sense. When we're in this forum, it's almost like we're doing a face-to-face. We do expect just mutual respect between the student and the instructor. You are all adults. If you, let's say in the first 30 minutes and we hadn't taken a break, you needed to run and use the restroom, just shoot me a personal chat message. That way, because your instructor, if you're missing, let's say I look up and I wasn't paying attention and you're missing, your instructors can disconnect you if your if your video is off, if you're not responding, or, if you're absent from the room. So respect pretty much. Next week, we'll update our Zoom screen name, and I feel like all of you have your screen names correct, but we will put a profile picture up there, and you can do it before, but it will probably require you to log into the actual Zoom and update your profile. So for instance, when you or I mute my video or close my video, a picture of the student that it belongs to will pop up. All right. Next is we talked about attendance. We talked about participation. In-class assignments, we won't have one this week, but going forward, every week we'll have one. Your instructors will tell you what it is. You will complete it during the class. Some may have you submit things along the way as checkpoints to say that you were in class from the beginning to the middle to the end. And then some may just say submit it at the very end. It just depends on the instructor. And then they grade that. Each week you will have an in-class assignment, and total, it will count as 40% of your grade. Discussion tips for you all. Again, first post by Wednesday. Make them substantive, like 1-2 sentences is not going to be good enough. Be careful with using AI. There are some key things that we look at for those that are AI. There are some hallmarks of things that are AI generated. And also, if you are using AI, make sure you proofread it and see if it actually even lines up with what the actual topic is. I've seen things generated and I'm like, well, that wasn't even part of the assignment. So just be careful with the AI, but they're pretty simple assignments. So again, about a paragraph or two is kind of what we're looking for. In your response to peer, we're not looking for, oh, great post. We're looking for an interaction or exchange, like, oh, I agree with you, and say why you agreed with them, or I feel this way, etc. So it's almost like we're in class and we're exchanging amongst. That's what the discussion is typically for. Last thing that we will talk about before we move into our lecture is required functional capabilities. All right, this is any X-ray school, and the reason why these are required, regardless of any type of disability that a person may have, we cannot make any accommodation for these, because you then become a hazard not only to the patient, but also to your team members, and then also sometimes for yourself. So if you have some sort of disability and you have a previous 504 plan or an IEP, we do need to know about it so that you can speak with the appropriate person to put those additional accommodations into play. Some students in some instances get additional time for a test over other students based on some type of disability that they have. But in no instance can we accommodate for these, because you would be a hazard for a patient. So in terms of vision, to be in the imaging field, you need to be able to see black, white, and scales of gray. We don't care if you can see blue, red, orange, etc. Sonography may, especially in the vascular world when they're trying to see blood flow, but for the most part, for X-ray, diagnostic imaging, for CT, for MRI, for mammo, we need for you to be able to see black, white, and shades of gray. Anyone know why? Where's my dental person?
Because you can see like different things on it. So like I know for me, like a cavity is going to be darker than bone.
All right. Because your images, all of our images, regardless of what type pathology we're looking for, they're in shades of black, white, and gray. So if you can't see that, of course, you cannot be in imaging. Another thing that you need to be able to do is hear. So if you're a lip reader, and you can't hear at these distances, you now become a hazard. And not only could you be injured or your team member be injured, your patient could get injured and you not even hear them, calling your name or fall on the floor, because once you turn your back or they turn their back, meaning you're doing something like a PHS and you can no longer see their lips, you may miss information. We also have a lot of buzzers that go off, alarms that go off in the hospital to alert you of things. So you have to be able to hear. Gross and fine motor skills. Not only do you need to be able to lift things, patients are pretty heavy unless you're going to work in pediatrics. Um, a lot of our patients, they weigh a lot and they may walk into the door and be all mobile and ambulatory. As soon as you get them on the table, they all of that weight becomes dead and they can do nothing. So even though it says at least 25 pounds, most of your patients are going to weigh a whole lot more. And when you're having to transfer them from, let's say, a bed to a table, vice versa, or when you're having to go on a portable and lift your patient so you can get your detector behind them, you have to have all of that. Sometimes you will be stuck with just yourself. You'll come on a ward or floor, and all of the nurses that are supposed to help you, they will run away, and it's just you. Sometimes you may be the lone man in the radiology department. So again, one of your chapters eventually will go into like basic body mechanics, how to lift, how to do different things. If you're doing this for a long time, that's why some people do move into peds or things such as CT. Well, CT might have lifting. Peds is a good one to reflect on because you're not you don't have a whole bunch of heavy patients, and in most cases the parents are willing to lift that weight for you. So you're usually on your feet 8 to 12-hour shifts depending on where you work, and then also you're having to push and move equipment. The more modern equipment is a lot lighter and easier to use, and some of it drives itself or moves itself, but if it's not working properly or if that hospital is not up to date, it may have a little bit of weight behind it. Fine motor skills, we have a lot of dials and buttons that we have to manipulate and tubes that we have to move, and you have to be able to do it yourself. No one's going to do it for you. So again, you have to be able to do that alone, and that falls into the fine and gross motor strength and skills. Critical thinking, you may not have it right away, but you do have to show that you're developing it. You're going to get a book that says this is the way you should do it, and you usually practice in a lab as a student on a perfect patient that's able to get into all of these positions. In the real world, your patients are going to come in and they're not going to be that book perfect patient, or they're not going to be able to assist you like your lab partner who knows that what you should be doing assist you, or they might be unconscious. So you have to use your critical thinking skills to figure out how to get that diagnostic image. So even when after 2 years, students have been in school for 2 years, that's something they still develop. We learn new things every day, but we have to see that you're progressing. Interpersonal skills and communication kind of go hand in hand. You're going to be working on a team. You're going to be working with doctors, nurses, surgeons, other healthcare members, whether they be from maintenance, whether they be from um, environmental services, or you have to work together as a team. You're going to work in very stressful environments. You might see, patients come in deceased. You might see patients come in abused, whether it's an elder, a kid, or, just an adult. So interpersonal, you have to be able to communicate with others, not scared to. Usually in the lab environment, we can practice it, but seemingly sounds like a lot of you are in healthcare. So this part is probably not going to be an issue. You just have to learn how to be able to explain the exams to the patient in a manner that they can understand, not the radiology jargon, not those big words. So again, you have to be able to communicate with others, to include family members as well. So when you are in those stressful environments, you have to not break down in those stressful situations. You have to remain calm and you have to be able to get the job done, regardless of what you see. You can't break down and not be able to do the image. And then last but not least, you're going to be on your feet. Sometimes, depending on the type of job that you took or the type of facility that we send you to for your clinical, some may be very busy, some may be very dead. Hopefully, you don't get sent to a dead one because you're not going to be able to get your comps, but you want to have comfortable shoes, for sure. And you also have to be willing and able to work in like a close, crowded environment because some radiology corps are pretty small and they have a bunch of people crammed in there. And then sometimes it can be pretty noisy depending on, what type of case you're in. If it's let's say a code that they called, or if it's, they're calling you over to the ER because there's a patient that came in, you have to be able to work in those type of environments. So these are things that we cannot accommodate for. Everyone that enters these must have those. And we would not be discriminating just because this is something that you need to have. Now, at some point in time, if you, let's say you were in a program and as a result of some sort of accident, something happened to you, this is something that we would have to discuss after the fact to see how we can assist you to get what you need. But coming into a program, all of these have to be in order. All right, so it is currently 9:07. So let's take 10 minutes, come back at 9:17. I'll see if there's any more announcements that I need to go over, but then we're going to go into your chapter 1 lecture.
Could I actually ask a question really quickly?
Yes, ma'am, you can. All right. So hopefully everyone is seeing the PowerPoint. Yeah. All right, so this is your chapter 1, pretty simple chapter. A lot of them are simple chapters. A lot of them are simple chapters until we get to about chapter 7, 7 through 9. They may be just a little bit more difficult because you start trying to learn the different types of radiology equipment. So this is your intro to radiologic and imaging sciences, and I'm not going to read all of these objectives to you, but we have a total of about 9 objectives. All right, 9 objectives, basically talking a little bit about radiation in medicine, talking about career opportunities, the discovery, career opportunities in terms of progression, and then also some of the modalities, is what this chapter goes into. All right, and those are the last 4 objectives for you. All right, so in terms of medicine, radiation can be dangerous. Not as dangerous as it was, I'll say, in the early stages before we were practicing safe medicine, but it can be dangerous. So we like to practice something called ALARA, as low as reasonably achievable. So when we are imaging our patients, not only do we want to pay attention and get it right the first time in terms of the techniques that we use for that patient's exam or the energy levels that we use for the patient's exam, we want to use the lowest amount of energy to produce what we call a diagnostic image. We don't want it to be too low to where the radiologists can't read it, but we want it low enough to achieve an image that can be read or interpreted for that patient's diagnosis. We have different types of imaging, and with that comes different types of energy. Some use ionizing radiation, some use what we call non-ionizing radiation. For instance, we'll talk a little bit about sonography use sound waves. MRI uses radio waves and a magnet. And then the rest of the modalities pretty much use some type of ionizing radiation, whether it's X-rays or whether it's gamma rays. All right. And at the last bullet point at the bottom, again, we want to ensure that we're using the lowest dose, whether we're using it in a diagnostic way to diagnose the patient or a therapeutic way in terms of radiation therapy. They are trying to cure something. Again, some of the energy levels can create ionizations in human tissue, meaning it can damage the tissue. And in terms of damaging the tissue, we're talking about damaging the DNA. Now, our cells are smart. All right, if we just went and got one X-ray and it caused some damage, the cells can repair itself. But if we're doing it every day, let's say we go in and get an X-ray every day, which it doesn't happen for a patient, eventually our cells won't be able to repair themselves, and though it may repair in an unnatural way. Unnatural way, we're talking about damage to our DNA. It can mutate into some type of cancer for us, the individual, or we can pass that DNA on to our children, and they could be potentially born with some type of deformity. So you as an X-ray tech using X-rays every day, there will come a point in time when you will be required to hold the patient. Not as a student because it's not allowed in any school, but as a regular tech or even a student tech, you're going to be required to hold a patient one day. All right, when I say hold the patient, they need to hold some sort of position so you can get the diagnostic image. But when you are in the room with the patient, you're going to ensure that you are shielded with our lead shields, not only the gonadal shields or the full body shields, also a thyroid shield. You want to make sure that you're shielding your radiosensitive or most sensitive areas. You'll also get a dosimeter, and that's going to measure your radiation dose. And for us as radiation workers, there is an annual limit that we can have. But in most cases, when you're imaging, you should be behind the wall, unless you're in fluoro. I mean, behind the lead glass window that you see in the movies, maybe, or that you saw when you got an X-ray. Unless you're in fluoroscopy, then you're up close in person with the patient and the doctor, or you're out on a portable run, or you're in the OR. When you're doing all of those, you should have on a lead vest. Not all techs wear lead during portables, but one thing that you can use to assist you is distance. All of our portable machines have like a trigger button on a cord. The cord stretches out 6 feet, about 6 feet. You need to be going 6 feet in the opposite direction of the patient and the beam. All right, distance is our friend in terms of dose. Just like a campfire, the closer you are to the campfire, the more heat you feel. The farther you are away, the less heat you feel. That's the same thing with dose. The closer you are to the source, the more dose you receive. The farther you're away from the source, the less dose you receive. All right, so in terms of energy forms, again, we talked about the different types of modalities you can get into. Some use ionizing radiation. So again, us in X-ray, we're going to be using ionizing radiation to create the images. All right, some use radio waves, and it didn't list it there, but MRI uses radio waves and also a magnet to create those images. Some use sound waves. So if you're interested in ultrasound or medical sonography, they use sound waves to create in a medium to create those images. Electrocardiography, and of course thermography. Those are not common for us, but thermal or thermography uses heat energy, and electrocardiography uses electrical energy. MRI again uses magnet and radio waves, and last but not least, nuclear medicine uses gamma radiation. There are some other ones that are not listed. For instance, mammography and CT, and also radiation therapy and bone densitometry use ionizing radiation, although bone densitometry is very low dose. And another one is not listed is um, radiation therapy also can use gamma radiation too, in addition to the X-rays. So again, all of the modalities use some type of energy to get the image that they need. Now, I'm not going to pull up this picture, but when you do go to your book, it will show you a picture of the electromagnetic spectrum from the lowest member of the spectrum to the highest member. When we say low, that means there is less chance for harm. When we get to the higher area on the right side, and that is it's UV, which ultraviolet, if you tan, approaches the dangerous area. Then we have radiation or X-rays. And then last but not least, we have gamma rays and cosmic rays. So cosmic is outer space. Gamma rays, of course, we have nuclear medicine and radiation therapy. And X-rays are radiation therapy and diagnostic X-ray. All of those are ionizing. Again, when it hits the tissue, it has the ability to cause damage if it's used in an unsafe manner. All of the other ones, so on the lower side of the spectrum, the first member, so to speak, is radio waves. Radio waves is used in MRI, also used in your car as well to listen to the music. The next member is microwaves. Of course, microwaves are used to heat your food. Then we have, I think, infrared light used in like remotes to beam that energy to change your TV. And then we have a sliver that has the visible spectrum. What we can actually see, how we see color, how we see black, how we see white. And then after that, we have what we talked about, the more dangerous members. Even though UV is not ionizing, we do know it's dangerous. It can cause skin cancer, and we do know that it also causes premature aging as well. All right, so what you are here for, what you're here to learn, you're here to learn radiography, also known as X-ray. Again, X-ray does fall in the electromagnetic spectrum. We use those X-rays to create the images for the patient to get their diagnosis. Every time we take an X-ray, there are interactions that happen between the X-ray energies and the cells that can cause damage. And if we use this in an unsafe manner, again, we're talking about you practicing a lower, using the lowest dose. If they're just coming in for one X-ray or even a follow-up, for some type of orthopedic procedure, our cells are going to be able to repair themselves. But you, on the other hand, if you're going in every day, holding patients, not wearing lead, eventually your cells are going to give up. They'll mutate. It'll turn into some type of cancer, or you'll pass that on to your kids. So as a radiographer or anyone that works in imaging, if you happen to be in the room where there is live radiation going on, you want to make sure you have on your lead thyroid shield and also your lead vest to protect your gonads. So your goal here is to learn how to use X-rays in a competent and safe manner for your patient. All right. And that includes you and others around you. You're the person that's responsible for keeping everyone safe. All right, next, some of you in your posts, maybe this class, maybe my other class, said that you're really interested in sonography. So it's not the typical pathway, but ARRT does have a credential for sonography, but typically they're looking for ARDMS, KHEP, and JRC DMS. Those are the, I'll say gold standards for accreditors for sonography. But in any case, they're using sound and a medium, typically that gel that you see that they put on the patient to create the images. Not ionizing, so it's not harmful because they're only using sound to bounce off and create that image. And they use it in many different applications, even though we normally see it just to look at a baby. They can look at other different body parts to include veins and arteries. In ultrasound. So when you do, or if you do go into ultrasound, they have different lanes or modalities as well, such as vascular, general, etc. MRI is another modality you can get into. The typical path is through X-ray. Then you go on and get some additional school training, in-class training, or online training if you want to do it by yourself. But you do have to get clinical checkoffs for these as well. And then once you're done with that, you can sit for your boards and get this modality if you want. They use radio waves and also the magnet to create these images. So very high resonance, but this is not the first modality of choice to get imaging because these are very expensive. There is another pathway that's coming about where you're not going to X-ray school first. There's a school out there that I know of called Tesla. I just don't know what the job outlook is for those techs because a lot of the job announcements that I see for MRI say that they want you to have ARRT plus that. So if you're not going to X-ray school first, then you're not going to have ARRT. And I don't know if Tesla students are able to sit for their boards. So if that is something that you're interested in, there are schools that don't require you to go to X-ray school first. All right, CT. This is a typical pathway to get to CT. You become a diagnostic tech first, and then you go into CT. Just like MRI, these are cross-sectional images. So it's basically slicing the patient up into like a slice of bread, and then I can look at them from different views and on top axial or sagittal view. And then I can create a 3D model of that as well, meaning maybe that patient needs to go to surgery. They can create that 3D model and they can look down to the individual slice of the patient that they need to get to. CT and MRI, the patient is in a bore, like a circle donut, with the exception of the open MRI machine, and they're on a couch, and the couch or gantry couch and gantry, the patient traverses through and it basically slices the patient up that way so that you can get your images for their diagnosis. All right, another field that some students might be interested in is nuclear medicine. This typically is a pathway, but there are some for your nuke med schools where you learn a little bit about X-ray and then you go into nuclear medicine. But with this one, they're going to shoot the patient up with the radiopharmaceutical. So the patient is actually radioactive and they're going to use a gamma camera to figure out or trace where the hot spots are for the patient to find where the issue is. If you're interested in interventional or cardiovascular, this is more like a surgical type suite where they do pinhole surgery. They cut a patient open, pinhole size. They slip a catheter in. They traverse up to the location that they need, shoot some dye to find the issue, whether it's a bleed, whether it's a blockage, whether they're trying to go in and repair something. This is what our cardiovascular techs do. They are very smart, and this is a very stressful job. And in most cases, you almost need to know as much as the radiologist. You just don't get paid as much as they do. So very smart people. It takes about a year or more outside of X-ray school, if you're going into this, to even kind of get comfortable with all of the procedures that they do. But very good job, very stressful job, does have a lot of call because sometimes these are emergencies. You're trying to save a patient's life. Radiation therapy is another modality you can go into, but you don't have to go via X-ray, but there are some bridges like here in Atlanta, there's a school called Grady. Once you get your ARRT, you can go to Grady and do a 1-year bridge. or you can go to a straight 2-year radiation therapy school. There's a school here in Atlanta where you just go to learn radiation therapy and you do your clinicals. And there's also some 4-year programs. So I feel like these are the nurses of X-ray because they get their patient and they treat them for that course. Their patient may come in 2, 3, 4 times a week to get their treatment until the course is over. The goal is to kill the cancer, and some patients are coming in more so for pain management because they're not going to be able to get rid of the cancer. Therapists work with cancer doctors, basically, so the oncology team. And then they also work with medical dosimetrists as well. So sometimes therapists bridge over and go into medical dosimetry. The dosimetrists work with the oncologist to come up with the plan for treatment that the therapists use to treat the patient. Um, a dosimetrist probably is like a master's level program almost. All right, so now a little bit about the history of medicine. Not too important for us, but it does lead us into what you're interested in, which is the history of radiology. It was discovered accidentally by a guy called Wilhelm Röntgen in Germany, Würzburg, Germany. His lab is actually still there at that physics university. When I did go to Germany, I did visit it. It's just one small room that's glassed up. You can't go into it, but you can see the lab. You can see some of the earlier Crookes tubes. And also in Europe, Marie Curie, I believe hers is in Paris, the one that worked with actual radioactive isotopes. So more so in the radiation, the nuclear medicine realm. She has a museum there as well. So just a little bit of history if you're in the area. Again, discovered accidentally on November 8th, 1895. The first X-ray that was created was a picture of his wife Bertha's hand. That's in your book. And that marked the birth of X-ray. Sorry. He didn't patent it. He just gave it to the world to do whatever they felt. And that's why in the early days, it was used in an unsafe manner. So you would find what we call the petoscope or the shoe fitting fluoroscope in I'm sorry, I'm just looking at the time for you all. Shoe fitting fluoroscope where you could see how your feet fit in a shoe, not that you couldn't tell it was too tight or too big. Also, they had what we call X-ray salons, kind of like a portrait studio. You just go and get a picture of your bones. And then like the fairs that you see, like whether there's a state fair or local fair, they would take pictures of different bones. All right, of course, eventually we found that X-rays were dangerous. Thomas Edison and his assistant Clarence Daly brought that to our attention, of course, at the expense of Daly. He did die, probably a very painful death. The only treatment for cancer, we called it radiodermatitis back in the day. Um, they first thought it was like a sunburn, but eventually it ended up being cancer. The only treatment back in those days was to start amputating things. So one of the trademarks of the field for those that worked in radiology, because they would put their hand in the beam a lot, they would put a glove on that ugly hand. And they usually use both hands because at some point this first hand would get start to kind of like sunburn if you ever had it. It hurts. So let's use this hand. So that's why you would see both hands. ARRT, of course, that is our credentialing body. NCLEX is to nursing, like ARRT is to X-ray. And some of the other modalities, they have 15 disciplines in both primary and post pathways. And X-ray or radiography is one of the primary pathways. An example of a post-primary pathway would be CT or bone densitometry or mammo. After you get X-ray, you can get the other one. It is internationally recognized. These are the guys that we will submit our CEUs to. These are the guys we will submit our first application to sit for our boards. First attempt currently, you only get 3 attempts to pass. First attempt currently is 225. Second and third attempt currently is $200 each. You all, ANU does pay for the first attempt. I'll have to get the exact number, but I think it's between 60 and 90 days that they give you, that they will pay for it. You're also lucky because you get to take the CQR every year for newer techs. So every 10 years, not every year, every 10 years, you'll take the CQR, almost like the registry again. Except if you fail, there's no penalty. They don't take your license away. They'll just give you some content recommendations that you need to go back and study. If you fail all 3 attempts, or because you have to use those attempts within 3 years, you let that window lapse without exhausting all needed attempts, anything remaining will expire. And to get more attempts, you will unfortunately need to go all the way back through another tech producing school. So really important that you take it seriously, retain the information as you're going through and continue to brush up on old information so that when you get to the end, it's not a struggle trying to recall day one information. All right, these are some of the credentials that you can have. Of course, on the right-hand column, fourth one down, fourth bullet point down, once you graduate, this is the board that you will be able to sit for. After you get that one with a little bit more schooling, you can go and get in competency checkoffs, meaning clinical rotations. You can go and get the others. Again, this is not a typical pathway for sonography, but as you can see, they do have breast sonography. Sometimes mammo people go get that. They do have vascular and they do have interventional as well. Another one that students are somewhat interested in is the radiology assistant. That's almost like a PA, but for radiology only. But I would do my research to ensure that the job market is strong for that one, because there were some Medicare, Medicaid laws that was making it very difficult for these people or these technologists or assistants or this credential to get a job in that field. So many were having to fall back to wherever they came from. Some did branch into interventional. So make sure you look at your job market before you jump into that, investing in that modality. All right, as a career, again, once you get your diagnostic, the sky is the limit from there. Third bullet point behind your name, you will put your name, comma, RTR, ARRT. If you get any of the other modalities between the R and the ARRT, you'll put that other initial, and you can put as many initials in there once you gain those credentials, meaning you went back to school for it, which you can do that online, some self-study. You got your clinicals, you sat for the board, and you passed it. So again, career opportunities are limitless. ASRT, something that you should be familiar with. They actually build the curriculum for schools. So they basically say, in order for you to get a program that's approved and you can sit for the ARRT, your program needs to cover all of this content. So they build the content specifications for programs. Career opportunities, once you do graduate, you don't have to just be a radiographer. You can move into administration. I want to be in charge of a radiology department. You can go back and get the CRA credential. You can move into education. You can be a clinical coordinator. You can be just a regular instructor. You can be a program director. To be a regular instructor, clinical coordinator, you need a bachelor's. To be a program dean or program chair, you need at least a master's. You can move into research. You can move into commercial entities like sales. I want to sell equipment. So I'll go around and market and try to sell X-ray equipment. If you don't want to sell it, you can be in applications. After it's sold, you can go and train the people on how the equipment should work, or you can move into service, biomed. They go around and fix the equipment, and you can also move in the IT part, which is PACS. So you don't have to just take images all day. All right, in terms of what they call us, radiology, X-ray, medical imaging, diagnostic services, when you walk into the hospital, these are some of the names that you might see on the wall, and typically all of the modalities fall into it. Even if it's broken up in different areas, we all fall under the same thing. and we're basically taking images for that patient's diagnosis. You will work with different types of team members, doctors, nurses, other allied health, such as the lab we may need to call to get pregnancy results. Um, the pharmacy, we may need to send our patients there to get a prep kit. Non-clinical people, people that come and help us clean up rooms, etc. It's almost like when you walk into the hospital, it's a little bit of community, and we all work together as a team. No matter what the role is, we have to work together. All right, so what you should have gained from this very short chapter, um, November 8th, 1895, Rinkin accidentally discovered X-rays. First image was his wife's hand. There's various imaging modalities, some ionizing radiation, some non-ionizing radiation. All of them fit on the electromagnetic spectrum, except for ultrasound. Sound does not fit on there. You are an essential member of the team, although not a lot of people know about us until recently with social media. It's not something that we learn about in high school. We learn about doctors, we learn about nurses, but nobody really talks about imaging professionals. But we're important because without us, some of the things that you can't see on the outside, we would patient wouldn't get their diagnosis. So we're very important part of the overall mission or goal for the patient diagnosis. Career opportunities are limitless. You can be anything you want to be after X-ray school. You just may need to get a little bit more education and knowledge, do a little bit more clinicals, and sit for another. And we are, if you look at any job board, you can find that there is a need for X-ray techs. One, we have the baby boomers retiring. Two, we have the new generation that doesn't want to work a full-time job, so there's always jobs available in the field, to include travel. If you want to get a couple years under your belt, if you want to travel to different states, you can just pick up a contract for how many ever weeks the contract is for. I've seen jobs in Puerto Rico, I've seen jobs in Hawaii, I've seen jobs in the Virgin Islands, and of course, all states have travel jobs as well. All right, and that is the end of our lecture. Um, Things to be done by 11:59 p.m. tomorrow. Discussions need to be complete. Your quiz needs to be complete, meaning week one quiz. And also, you have three assignments: written terms, handwritten, end of chapter questions, and then also your little essay that you need to write. All right, any questions for me before you're gone? I have a couple bubbles here in the chat. Let's see.
Is there a minimum or how long that essay has to be? Or
Two,
like,
three paragraphs,
okay.
like a page, or not a whole page, but definitely more than 3 or 4 sentences. So, any other questions? I don't think I put 500 words in there. I don't think I
I
put a
just wanted
word
to
in.
say hi to you guys. Hello. Sorry I was late.
Hello, and you are
Sure.
Cheyenne?
Mhm.
All right, Cheyenne, how are you?
I'm fine.
All right,
I kind of
so
missed the first hour of class, so it won't happen again. I'm so sorry. I had it in Eastern time for some reason. I'm usually prepared, so that's why I'm kind of like, ah. But
I'm Eastern time.
yeah, I'm Central, so I had it in the wrong time.
Oh. Okay, so eventually when this recording does download, it will be uploaded to the announcements, and you can go back and look at the first hour that you missed.
Okay, thank you. Nice to meet everyone too.
All right. Any other questions for me before I let you all go? All right. Well, it was a pleasure meeting you on the first day. Next week begins our in-class assignment. So instead of just looking at me, you'll be doing things or in breakout groups, working together as a team.
I have a question, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
I emailed you about doing my externship in Kaiser. So is that
Mhm.
possible?
You emailed me. I did forward that information to the placement team.
Mhm.
Oh, I didn't respond to you, did I? Did I
No.
respond to you? Okay, I didn't respond to you yet, but I did forward it to the placement team. They have been working on Kaiser for a couple years, so the person that's leading that is going to reach back out to Kaiser to see if they can make that happen. But it will be a contract between Kaiser and ANU, so they basically get the law teams together to see if, they agree or come together to agree.
Okay.
But I
Thank-
did forward it to the placement team. Sorry, I didn't remember to respond back.
It's okay. Thank you.
All right, no problem. All right, again, if anyone else comes up with some sites, like those of you that said that you're willing to drive 5 hours, if you come up with some sites, and you go talk to them and they said they're willing to take you, hopefully it's a hospital because you do want everything in one location because of the limited amount of time that you're going to be in clinic. As Miss Gloria says, if you have some connections and you're able to get some hands-on experience prior to getting to clinical, it's going to make it that much better for you. And if you're able to wiggle your way into a student tech role, it will make it that much better for you. But they may look at you a little strange because student techs normally they're a year into their program and they pretty much know how to do most things. All right, so I will see you next week if no one has any more questions.